There is a psychedelic renaissance happening all over the world. And for people that have experienced trauma, whether that be childhood trauma, cultural trauma, the effects of colonialism, or intergenerational trauma, this is almost a lifesaver because these psychedelic substances promise the possibility for healing in a short amount of time. However, not everything that shines is gold, and this is a very complex conversation. So, if you're thinking about doing ayahuasca or exploring other plant medicines, make sure that you watch this video because there might be something here for you. And if you want to learn more about cultivating self confidence and self love, make sure to subscribe and check out the free masterclass on my description box below. If you're new here, my name is Silvana. I'm a course creator and the founder of Venusian Woman, a movement that seeks to reignite feminine wisdom from within. Now, I started drinking ayahuasca about 5 years ago, and my journey is very connected to the work that I do. When I found ayahuasca, I was in a really low point in my life, dealing with depression, suicidal thoughts. I was just overwhelmed by the effects of all of the childhood trauma that I had been carrying all my life. And a lot of it was intergenerational, a lot of it were things that happened to me, a lot of it was also cultural, just poverty, trauma. Very, growing up in Colombia kind of has its own set of rules. So whenever I heard about ayahuasca, I didn't even research too much about it because I was just like, yes, give me anything. Like, I'll do anything to get out of this space. So I did. And that started a very, very beautiful journey because whenever I found it and I had my first ceremony, my life changed. Like, everything changed for me. I was really struggling with holding on to faith and being connected to myself, and that just opened up my mind's eye, and I saw very clearly the truth that we read in religious texts and in occult wisdom, which is everything is one and there's this oneness and everything is love and all parts of you are love. And this medicine has the beauty of purifying you, so you get to experience a big purge, and that purge is actually the liberation. After the liberation comes this wave of receiving knowledge and wisdom, like high wisdom, which is about oneness and love. And it's nothing new. It's God is love, except that you're having the experience of that instead of just reading it or trying to cognitively understand it. It is a full experience. And once you go through something like that, like, everything changes. And so I just started going to all of the ceremonies that I could. I drank medicine in the United States, in Colombia, in Ecuador. Like, I traveled just to do that. I found groups and communities that were doing that. All of my friends were in that circle. Like, my whole life revolved around this. And I thought at some point in my life that I was going to be either drinking ayahuasca all my life, or that eventually I was going to step into serving. And after the first 3 years of intensely drinking and doing all my integration work and transforming myself, letting go of really old stuff, I started helping in plant medicine ceremonies as well, holding space for people, helping the shaman, cleaning the buckets, getting people water, doing these very beautiful things for other people in a moment of deep vulnerability. So what changed? Why did I go from this enlightening experience and thinking that I'm gonna do that all my life to telling you right now, stop drinking ayahuasca? Well, this is what we're gonna explore here. All right, so I brought some notes because I need to make sure I stay on topic here. But I want to start with the simple concept that ayahuasca is a medicine. And whenever we look at the definition of medicine, it says medicine is a compound or preparation used for the treatment or prevention of disease, especially a drug or drugs taken by mouth. So ayahuasca is a medicine, but it's a medicine for the soul. Yes, it can heal the body as well. I've seen it in people, not myself personally, because my trauma was emotional in nature, but I've been able to witness that. But it is a medicine, and that's how it's called. It's called the medicine. People who serve ayahuasca are often referred to as medicine people. So if it is a medicine, it means that it's a compound to either treat or prevent disease. I went into medicine with a very deep dis-ease, meaning like I did not feel right within myself. There was too much emotional pain and suppression that I was carrying. And that was affecting my health. That was affecting my weight. It was affecting my habits. It was affecting the way that I worked. Everything in my life was twisted because I did not have the tools to really know how to process everything that I was feeling. So I want to divide this conversation in a few sections. First, I do want to talk about the visions and the life changes that come whenever you embark on ayahuasca. I want to talk about safety. And then I want to talk about knowing when it's time to stop. So let's begin with the vision and the changes that happen in life. Whenever you drink ayahuasca, it is a psychedelic substance. So you are having a lot of visionary experiences. When I started taking ayahuasca, I had never done anything before. So I had no idea about anything to do with like the, visual space. So whenever I found it and I had all the visions, it felt bigger than myself. It was such a grandiose feeling that right at the beginning of my journey with ayahuasca, my ego got the size of the moon because I believed that I was like the special chosen one that was giving the answers of the universe. There was a little bit of a trip with the sense of like, oh my God, like I know this, like I'm in the known with the truth of life. And every time that I will hear somebody say something like, well, that's not fair, or this person did this, it's like, no, it's all love, we're all one. Like I was like the queen of gaslighting other people's experiences because of my own introduction to this journey. Now, oftentimes in the ceremonies, there are very clear messages that come through like, okay, you need to change this, you need to like let go of this. And whenever people are narrating those experiences, they're saying like, oh, the medicine told me this, the medicine told me that. Now, I know a lot of shamans will disagree with this, but I think it's more empowering to say a part of me told me this versus the medicine told me that. Why? Because what I saw in the 5 years of intensely drinking ayahuasca nonstop is that there is, again, you put into a pedestal the medicine, you put into a pedestal the shaman, you put into a pedestal the medicine space, the medicine community. And anytime that we put anything on a pedestal, that brings problems. Because if it's up there, it's meant to fall eventually, one way or another, especially with people. But whenever it comes to the relationship people have with the medicine itself, it's almost as if like whatever the medicine says is what must be done. And like I did that for many years where I'm like, oh, the medicine said this, boom, let's do it. I was like an executioner for all of these things that came. And eventually over the years, after going through many changes, moving to a lot of places, changing, uprooting and changing my life over and over again, I learned that it was actually a part of me that wanted those changes. It was a part of me that was like triggering the change or the transformation to happen in my life. And the moment that we take responsibility for that, things become a little bit more grounded, because for as long as I'm saying like, oh, the vision I had was given to me by the medicine and the medicine said you must do this, we are disempowering ourselves a little bit because we're putting power to make decisions into something outside of us. Whenever it works out, great, perfect, the medicine is so wise. But whenever it doesn't, then we're like, what happened? I followed the path of the medicine. And it's a paradox because in truth, everything is divine that happens in that space, like that it's all meant to happen, it's all meant to guide you. And at the same time, we live here in these three-dimensional realities with human physical bodies, so we need to remain grounded because we're still here, and we're still here for a reason. If there's no reason for you to be here, you wouldn't be here. Like, same thing for me. It's like I'm here because I'm meant to be here. And when I say here, I'm talking about in the three-dimensional world, in Maya, in the Matrix, in this reality made of matter. So the ungroundedness that can bring over time, it starts building up. And over time, I got to a point where I'm like, what am I really doing? Like, what's the goal? Because if the goal is for more liberation, more like spiritual releases, then I might as well just go into a monastery and become a monk or a nun or a devotee or whatever and just live that way, if that's what I'm looking for. But that's not what I wanted. I wanted to experience life to its fullest. I want to I want to have a beautiful human experience. I want to live life without pain and suffering. So it's important to keep in mind the visions and where you are where you're allocating power, and if you're putting anything, including the medicine, in a pedestal. Now, the conversation around safety, it's extremely important. It should have been my first point, but here we are. Okay, safety. Safety is not only the physical safety, it's also the energetic, spiritual, and mental safety. These are very potent technologies, like plant technologies. They have been guarded by the indigenous in the Amazon for thousands of years. Now this is spread out throughout the world like wildfire, because I think this is a time that we need these medicines. But we cannot bypass the conversation around safety, especially safety for women. Like, that's a subject that I'm deeply passionate about, because of what I've experienced and because of what I've witnessed. So whenever you're taking a psychedelic substance, you are not there. Like, you're somewhere else. Your mind is fragmented. You're receiving a spiritual operation. You're under some kind of anesthesia, right? And yes, you're moving your body and you're talking and you're purifying yourself, but look at it from the perspective of it's a spiritual operation. Whenever you go get an operation from anywhere, right, you make sure that the doctor is qualified, they know what they're doing, that the place where you're doing the operation has all the technology needed to keep you alive and save your life in case things go wrong. You also make sure that you are in a place where you trust the people, you trust the clinic, the hospital, you trust the doctor. There is agreement before that. There is a lot of communication about what you're gonna go through, what the process is gonna be like. There is a process, there are protocols, there are all these like exams that get done before your surgery. Like, it's a big preparation. We should take ayahuasca journeys with the same seriousness. And this is like, I'm not exaggerating. This is like, it can be life-saving for many people. There is the physical safety component, which is about making sure your body stays alive, making sure you haven't taken any drugs that are going to have an contraindication with ayahuasca, making sure that you're not going to be sexually assaulted, because that has actually happened, making sure that you're not going to be in danger or hurt yourself or be hurt by other people. That's the physical safety. There is the emotional and mental safety component as well. What are the intentions of the people holding the space? What is their consciousness like? Do you trust them? Will you trust them in a sexual setting? And why do I bring this up? In astrology, the 8th house is the house of everything that's taboo, of death, transformation, ayahuasca, of deep sexuality, deep intimacy, all of these things that are like deeply, deeply intimate and occult. So we are looking at like the same place in our chart that houses all of these psychedelic experiences is the same place that houses sexuality. So you wouldn't just go to sleep with anybody. Like, you're selective about that process. Your body's selective about that process. Your mind, your emotions. There's like a criteria that happens whenever you choose to engage with somebody intimately in that way. So if you look at ayahuasca as a deeply spiritual experience, whoever you're drinking with, it becomes very important. Whoever is serving you the medicine, whoever is helping that person serve the medicine, you are in a deep, intimate setting with all of those people. And if they don't have the right intentions, and you are in a very open, vulnerable state, there's a lot that can happen. There's things that can be said to you that you internalize because you're in a very confused state where your mind is highly susceptible to being imprinted by different statements or challenged in different way. Also, energetically, whatever place you're in, everybody's energies is mixing up together. And if you're into everybody's energies, some people are easier channels for the medicine, for like, they become the path of least resistance in a ceremony, where whatever is like stagnant in the group container kind of goes through them. Some people are very resistant and they don't really break through. It all varies, but you're basically sharing all of this energy with all of these people. And one particular ceremony that I realized that I was near the end of my journey with ayahuasca was a ceremony that was deeply intense because it was the biggest ceremony I've ever been in. It was a group of like 60 people, which by the way, don't ever do that. Do not ever do that. Like cap it at 10. Trust me. I mean, you can, and just let me know how it goes. You're not gonna have a good time. But this huge space, like I've drank for many years, and I usually move a lot of energy very quickly. I was drinking with the same people every month, so it kind of became a community. I tried this new space with 60 people, and there was so much lust. Like I could feel out of nowhere all this lust that needed to be expressed, and I started expressing it, and the healers got very triggered by it, and then they tied me down, and then I started getting like out of control, kind of like diving into my animal because I didn't feel safe at all. And it was a very traumatic experience because whenever I woke up from this episode, I was outside of the ceremony space with two men completely tied down. And basically, one of the men said, like, oh, you can only go back inside after you give me a hug. Like there was just so much subtle manipulation, and it took me about a year to get over this because I felt like I betrayed myself for first of all going there, and second of all for not being able to like really say what I needed to say because I was still in such a confusion state. I was dealing with all this shame. I had internalized everything that had happened in that particular ceremony, and I had to really connect with myself. And that's where this ceremony was transformational because that experience was so terrifying for me. And I felt so alone. And I felt like I couldn't trust anybody in this space because even the shaman, he got very defensive. He took it personally. He like yelled at me and put me like in the center surrounded by like 20 people. And he's like, oh, well, look at her. She's healing. Everybody, round of applause for her. Like it was just a very traumatic experience when I wasn't really fully there because I was still under the effects of the medicine. I was forced to find my own truth, my own light, the God goddess within, and just be like, nothing's safe. I gotta go find the light within. That's why this ceremony was so transformational. But I feel like I didn't want that to just like be in vain. This is one of the reasons why I'm making this video, is because yes, like we hear all these success stories, but then there's also so many elements within the space that needs to be considered, that we need to evaluate. Because if you know these things, you know what questions to ask. You know how, like once you know the questions to ask, and you can pick up on a person, you can see if they're like confident in what they're doing, if they get defensive, if there's dismissal or deflection or whatever techniques people use to not talk about things they don't want to talk about. So this particular event was kind of like the beginning of the end because I lost some sort of trust with the medicine. And then after that, whenever I was taking it again, I wasn't able to really surrender because I did not feel safe. Even whenever I was back to like my usual ceremonial space, I was really unable to surrender and go back for a long time. And what I realized in that process is that everything was different in my experience with the ceremony. That led me to ask myself the question, well, why am I drinking still? Okay, I started drinking medicine to heal from my childhood traumas, to heal from sexual trauma, to heal from all this repression and anger and just abuse and all of these things that like my family lineage has carried for generations. Is that still true for me? And this is where like working with ayahuasca, it's such a transcendental thing, and that's why you must stay very, very grounded in reality, in your life. You must be constantly checking in with yourself and be very mindful of the chase for the transcendence. Because once you have such a big transformational experience where you're one with God and you go back to like waking up on a Monday morning, making your morning beverage and sitting by your computer and sending the tedious emails, it really, like the comparison between the two, you're like, what the hell am I doing here? This isn't life. That's life. That's where I got it wrong at first, because that in fact is life. Like that tedious mundane thing, that is in fact life. and learning to sit with the mundane and the boring, and learning to receive the transcendental as a gift and not as a norm is what actually helped me return to earth, come back to the ground, and like reroot myself in my physical body and in my life. So how do you know when is the time to stop drinking ayahuasca? Basically, there's many signs that you can start seeing that are indication that maybe you are coming near that time of ending it. Number one is if you think that you are the biggest gift to this planet and you are either Jesus, Mary Magdalene, Isis, Cleopatra, whatever, whoever you are, maybe it's time to stop drinking medicine. Okay, because ayahuasca will give you, like, she will respond to whatever you want to believe, and then life will correct that. I've learned that the hard way myself, and I've also seen it with many people in the communities, in my spaces, that just go off the wagon and then they receive a very humbling beating from life, where we gotta come back here and realize that if you're still thinking in a hierarchy perspective, like that's the ego mind. That is the part that creates more separation, because that is the survival instinct, is to create separation, you and me, because I'm here and you're there. That works in the animal kingdom. Now, whenever we are dealing with transcendental experiences and trying to reach for our divinity, we have to remember that we are equal, that we are all different aspects of the one source. And I am as sacred as you are. And this person over here is as holy and divine as I am holy and divine. Like, we are, whatever we think we are, all of us are that thing. All of us are special if I think I'm special. All of us are nothing if I think I'm nothing. It's removing that hierarchy mind into more of a flat experience, where I am seeing other parts of myself, not seeing myself in the top of the pyramid looking down at other people. So if at some point the medicine tells you, oh, you were Jesus in a past life, and then you believe it, have fun with that one. Another sign that I've seen, that I think it's time to stop drinking medicine, is if you are hunting for a majestic timeline. Your life starts improving because you start feeling better. You start being more of yourself, and deprogramming yourself from all of the BS programs that were imprinted upon us. So life starts getting better. But you get to a point where you're like, no, I want something more and better. Now I know people that drink medicine because they wanted to become millionaires. This is true. And then they're like, okay, so from now on, I will become a millionaire, and my intention is to know how to become a millionaire. And they go into the medicine in that way. And they do sometimes. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they do. I'm not gonna. Those stories are still in action. So I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But if you're going into the medicine to find this next level of majestic experience, then it's time to stop, because it is a medicine. It is a medicine that is meant to heal the soul. Yes, there's so much monetary trauma that we all have, and there is, and I think poverty is an energy that must be released from our planet. But one thing is to release ourselves from poverty. Another thing is to go chase a grandiose experience. That kind of gets us off balance. So I think that is a really good tell sign that it's time to maybe stop, slow down, and return here to integrate, to see if you still want what you think that you want, because that changes as well. And if you're drinking too often, you're basically getting all of these surgeries constantly. You don't have enough time to get to know your new self. And that is a huge piece of the puzzle here, is to give ourselves enough time to get to know the version of ourselves after the operation, after the ayahuasca experience. Even though it's so tempting to just like go at it like really intensely, like I did for 5 years nonstop. Eventually, I think it is time to stop. The only people that shouldn't stop are the people that choose to serve medicine. And by the way, if you start drinking ayahuasca and you think that you want to become a shaman, decide that after like the first 8 years of journeying with it. That's my personal advice. I know people don't like hearing that, but I think that out of integrity, both for yourself and the medicine and the path, it's important to give ourselves time, because the peak of a specialness that we get after a transcendental experience is very difficult to navigate, especially when you've lived your life very disempowered, or you felt like crap for years and years, or been depressed for like 25 years or something radical like that. Then getting grounded after such a peak of specialness is very difficult. So I think that giving ourselves time is respecting the medicine, respecting the tradition, and then respecting ourselves as well. So, what is the goal of drinking medicine? And why did I stop? And why do I think that you should stop if you have been drinking for many years? Our job is to find contentment with the mundane, to be able to accept this life and accept ourselves and receive it and play with it, create with it. Follow the inspired action that is born within. In order for us to do that, we need to be here, not in that realm. If you want to be in that realm, then you are going to get to do that as much as you want after you leave this plane through death. So the ultimate decision for me came whenever I realized that I was okay. I was all right. I felt at peace with myself. I wake up every morning with gratitude for being alive, gratitude for waking up. That wasn't the case before I found the medicine. So now that I'm here in this state, and it doesn't mean that my life is perfect. Of course it's not. You know, I'm like hustling and trying to make all these things, and I'm like playing, and I have frustrating days. Like, life goes on the way that life does, and life is a little roller coaster taking us through ups and downs. But the key element here for me was that I started feeling gratitude for myself, compassion for myself. Every time that I experience like an emotion like shame, my default is like, it's okay, I love you, I forgive myself. Like, my default emotion with myself in relation to myself became very beautiful. I started noticing the softness with which I started approaching myself and my emotions. The fact that I started like honoring all parts of myself and being more mindful of what I ate and what I consume and who was around me and all of these things. Like, that's what you want from a deep experience of the medicine. You want to be able to be present with life when life is amazing and when life is challenging, and not get lost in it, not disassociate, not escape. Because whenever we have trauma, that's what we do. We either disassociate, escape, or we fight whatever is we're experiencing in that moment. So after trauma healing, whether you do it through therapy or, this video, obviously you interested in ayahuasca. If you do it through ayahuasca, I think it's a matter of learning to be okay with life and the way that life is and the colors that life gives us. So if you find yourself at that point, then my friend, you're done. Stop drinking ayahuasca. You're done. Learn to enjoy your life, ground, build here, create, and take all the wisdom that you extracted from that realm, from the plant medicine space. Take it here and create something beautiful with it that's going to help you and help others around you as well. So that's why I stopped drinking ayahuasca, and I'm encouraging you to stop as well if you're on the same boat. So let me know in the comments below if you are a journeyer, or if you're watching this video because you just got curious about it and have never tried it and just wanted to see the background scenes of it, or if you try some other medicine. Let me know before, and I'll see you guys next time.